But with that being said, let's talk about Charles Jourdain, another Canadian brother, taking on Sean the Sniper Woodson. And I'm gonna leave one of the undefeated trends on the cutting room floor for this fight, just because it was so surprising and strong to me. But what I would say is Jourdain as a favorite is 5-2 in the UFC for a 17.3% ROI. So he's done a pretty decent job as a favorite so far in the organization. He is just 28 years of age here, so he's going to be the younger party. He's 6-5-1 in the organization overall. So we've seen that Charles Jourdain has been a little bit better than 500 as a UFC fighter. He's currently on a 2-fight win streak with wins over Kron Gracie and Ricardo Ramos. And I thought it was pretty impressive that he went out there and submitted Ramos so quickly. If he had went out there and knocked him out, something like that, that wouldn't really have surprised me. But to go out there and get the submission win in the first round against a guy who likes to go out there and trade jiu-jitsu positions with everybody, that was impressive to me. To shut down Kron Gracie didn't tell me too much because Kron looked like a shell of himself there. But we also saw that, he went out there and just did his job, right? He was a similar price favorite in that spot, I believe, and he went out there and delivered in a big way. So that was on a pay-per-view as well. If you look throughout his career, he's only been on pay-per-view for the UFC just that one time, and he did go out there and get the unanimous decision. So I thought that was a pretty good sign for him. He lost to Shane Burgos via majority decision. Guys, I got to tell you the truth. Shane Burgos is a Section 9 guy. He's a New York guy. No quit in New York. New York stand up. However, I think Shane Burgos had an argument for losing that fight to Charles Jourdain. It was a super, super close fight. Could have went either way. So Charles Jourdain, lost a majority decision there, lost a unanimous decision to Nathaniel Wood. And Nathaniel Wood, pretty good fighter, and just showed that the takedown defense is really not there for Charles Jourdain. But his submissions are there against lower level guys. And I do think that when you look at Sean Woodson, he does show one loss via submission, right? He got dark choked by Julian Erosa in a fight where he just completely gassed out because of the pace, because of the aggression. I do think that you could see somebody like Jourdain replicate that kind of style, that kind of pace. And Luis Saldana was also able to get the split draw there because Luis Saldana was not very intelligent about that fight, but he hurt him several times. He had him completely rocked and wobbled, and I do think he could have finished him there if he had fought a little bit smarter. So Luis Saldana accomplished that as a plus 290 underdog. However, when you look at the other side here, Woodson has typically been a favorite more often than not in the UFC. So he's not a guy that's super familiar with this underdog role, but he's going to be an underdog here against Charles Jourdain. And when you're looking at the intangibles, we talked about the age relationship, right? Charles going to be 28 compared to 31 for Sean Woodson, so 3 years of youth advantage. But we're also going to see a pretty sizable height and reach advantage for Sean Woodson here. He's going to be 6'2" compared to just 5'9" for Charles Jourdain, as well as a 78-inch reach compared to just a 69-inch reach for Charles Jourdain. So when you think about Jourdain and how he would win this fight, I think Jourdain would have to go out there, potentially mix up the wrestling and the grappling, try and get this guy to the ground. Because I do think Sean Woodson is vulnerable on the mat. I do think he can be exploited there. But we also saw Dennis Bazooka tried to mix it up a little bit there. And Dennis obviously has not proven himself to be UFC level at all through his current performances. But we did see that Woodson has gotten a little bit better with his grappling, with his wrestling. He was trying to look for his own takedowns as well, getting very, confident with it. So when you look at Sean Woodson, not a lot of people on Tapology are expecting him to win this fight. Everybody's picking Jourdain, but people are split on the methods here. They don't know how Jourdain's going to get it done. For me, Jourdain's best chance to win this fight is via submission. I also think he can go out there and get the decision. He's got the home field advantage. I believe he lives and trains in Canada. So a lot of things going for Jourdain here, but he does have a 2-5 career record to the decision. So he has not been performing very well in those fights that go the distance. His record in the UFC in fights that go the distance is 2-4. So he just has not produced in those longer fights, in those 15-minute fights. We've seen he struggled at times to put it all together for the full 15 minutes. Maybe he takes the second round off here, a third round off there, kind of comes and goes with his aggression. And oftentimes the third round is his best round, but I just feel that we haven't always seen consistency from Jourdain. So he does seem to be getting a little bit more mature, a little bit more precise, a little bit more aggressive. But Can he string it together to get a third straight win in the UFC? He's never done it before. Can he get that 3-fight win streak? Let's find out on Saturday night. But tepidly, I'm going to pick him to do so in the early going. But I also think that if this line continues to move in his favor, right now we're looking at a price of Charles Jourdain about -175 best available, -190 on a couple of these books. I think if we get to the point where Charles Jourdain is like -250 or higher, I would probably have to look to fade it just on principle, because we have seen Charles at times make really boneheaded mistakes, kind of give fights away a little bit and keep them very close. And especially the way he gives up takedowns at times. Both of these guys were finished by Julian Erosa via submission in round 3. That's hysterical. So I think that, there's a lot of parallels between these guys, but Dixon is not wrong. Shout out to Dixon in the chat. He says Woodson has a very chokeable neck. Liam, I agree with you. I've seen Woodson in a couple vulnerable positions. So far, he's done a pretty good job staying safe in his recent fights, but Terrence McKinney had him in all sorts of trouble. Then McKinney lost position. Woodson gets up, flying knee. The fight's over right then, right? The story of Terrence McKinney. But when you're looking at this spot, I do think that it's a fun, compelling matchup. Both guys have a chance to win, but Jourdain, more well-rounded game for me, and I think he does have some tools to get it done. But you got to just remember, there is a pretty big size disparity here.